Thank you so much, Chloe. That's fantastic. So I've got 30 minutes to try and do justice to the hottest topic on every board agenda in every industry sector. I travelled to about 24 countries last year, and the sectors range from business services to concrete to pharma, every sector you can imagine, and it's the same all over the place. And also, I also want to say, I'm looking around the room to see if there's anybody my age or above. I'm 59, and I heard a few people talking about this earlier, about being continuously curious. So I'm 59, I've been in business for 35 years or so, and I've not just jumped on the bandwagon of AI, let me reassure you, I've been in AI since about 2016, but also to reassure you, you don't need to be a technologist to be able to get to grips with this low-code, typically no-code space. So I've written 3 books on how you apply AI to business. Number 1 in 2019, obviously writing it, 6 months before that, 2022, and then the last one just a few months ago. And really the message there is that we are all, however much experience, however little experience, we're all on this journey. We heard it earlier with KPMG, with Kraft, with Rolls-Royce, continuous intellectual curiosity. So really, really important. But frankly, we can no longer put the brake pad onto AI. We are all individually, and I think we have to take personal responsibility for this, as well as responsibility at an enterprise level. We're all having to adapt. We're having to adapt in our families, in our companies, in our communities. It's so, so important. So I want to leave you, as Chloe said, in 30 minutes with some nuggets of wisdom, what I call stealable innovation from what others like you are doing across multiple sectors, but also with some practical templates, 6-month plans and so on. But I want to start by getting you a little bit involved just for a couple of minutes. 2 polls. The first one, what stage are you at in your AI adoption journey? I see differences in different sectors and across different parts of the world. You can only vote for one of them. So let's go to the poll so that you can actually scan the QR code and fill this in for me. So what stage are you actually at? Are you just exploring, maybe considering what the guidelines are? Do you have pilots in different job functions, marketing, selling, CX, HR? Maybe you're scaling already across the enterprise. Maybe even some of you have got agentic workflows in action. So let's give that a few more seconds and see where we're at. Okay, so still counting, but at the moment it looks like the consensus is around about 38–40%. I've got 1 to 3 use cases in production, which is good to hear. Good to see that we're not at that low stage of only just beginning to explore. And surprisingly, I'm surprised by relatively high figure for the final one, that we've got some agentic workflows in place, which is great. So thank you for contributing to that one. Let's move on to the next one. The next one, and I purposely didn't put time in this one, which a lot of people do, so I haven't got time for AI. Think of the amount of time you're going to get back. But what I have got here, what are your biggest blockers to having scaled adoption of AI in your organization? Let's take it straight to the Menti poll. Let that come up in a second. And again, only vote for one. I'm sure some of these, for some of you, multiple categories might actually apply. But what's holding you back? Is it KPI ownership? Is it the operating model? Who owns that? For some of you, I know it's the fatigue and the actual talent adoption as well. So again, I'm going to be quiet and give you a moment to actually consider what that is. Looks like it's coming through quite strongly for, the data and the process fragmentation. I hear this everywhere I go. People say to me, the glue is missing between all of the different tools that we're trying to implement across our organization. Okay, and what are we talking about here? We're not talking about the big shiny robot coming and taking all of our GBS roles. We're talking about augmented intelligence, big data insights that mean we no longer put our finger in the air and do some guesswork. We've actually got insights across the talent pool, across the way we do our marketing, across the different service lines that we're offering, and so on. So I'm talking about two things: everyday productivity that every team can take advantage of, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT, and then some of the specific tools. It might be Eightfold or HireVue in HR, it might be Phrasee and Concurred in marketing, or it might be just some of the chatbots and Claude and Perplexity, or a whole multiple of different ones. So two different areas there. So what are we having to think about when we try to equip our teams? Now, you're very welcome through the Everest team to get a PDF of these slides. I'm not going to go through every single point, obviously, just going to pick off a few highlights there. But that final bullet point there, projects that Cisco viewed as too tedious to take on, that often would have required years of work, now being done in a matter of weeks. So again, this has all come out of recent data from Davos, but only 1 in 8 CEOs surveyed by them saying that it's lowering costs and delivering that elusive value. So we know there's a catalyst there. We know that we're seeing a change in the way we work. So not just AI coming in and, taking jobs, but actually transforming roles that we do. So maybe in the finance role, we might have an agent that we've built through our workflows, we've outsourced and so on, and it might be doing invoice processing, purchase order matching, and so on. And then the people in that department are those that maybe are going to focus in on some of the more strategic aspects, the vendor payment terms, for example. So basically, all of us get the opportunity to move up that food chain, because we're no longer guessing. We've got big data insights across everything we do. We should be able to add much more strategic value. But if we think about it again quite broadly, I'm on the all-party parliamentary group for enterprise adoption of AI and the editorial board of the AI and Ethics Journal. So we're hearing evidence from around about 7 people per month at these meetings. And I'm actually starting to see, back in 2019, people were being told, open up your shopping bag and buy some AI. Now it's much, much more strategic. But the things that are holding it back are trusted data and the fact that the regulators are often catching up quite slowly, with the technology. That's been happening for some time. So we've got to have the trusted data. We've got to have fairness and transparency and explainability. All of this is really, really important. So for all of us, it is about working really symbiotically with AI. Let's pick one industry sector as an example that we can learn from. I've been working with a lot of law firms, and of course they're using Claude and ChatGPT and their own enterprise versions, but they're also using tools like Legora that's been developed by people with a domain knowledge of that particular sector. So again, if we look at what the Law Society is saying, 96% of law firms have already integrated it. 61% of them are using it, but only 1 in 6 are embedding it into their firm's strategy. So we're all out there busily using these tools, but are we embedding it across all the different functions to make sure that we're using it in a really, really strategic way? So what we've got to do is to overcome that execution gap. Okay, so 50% Gen AI projects abandoned after proof of concept. So what we don't want is just more and more pilots. Yeah, we actually want to see that scaled adoption. And again, that's going to come from trusted data, proofs of concept, and sharing best practice across your organization. So we need that connection with all the different groupings that typically would have sat in isolation in their own ivory towers. So what I've got for you here for the next couple of minutes is what I call that stealable innovation, where we're learning from what other sectors are actually doing. And what we're aiming for is that connected service design, so that we, again, don't just have pilots, but we have some effective workflows that can be rolled out across the different functions. And we can see it here in the telecom sector with BT, with Verizon, with those sorts of organizations. And it might be Gen AI to predict a call, reason for a particular call, or how to route to a particular engine. But ultimately, and we heard it in the last presentation, it's about customer satisfaction. So what is it that makes the difference? What do people come to us for? And I argue with a lot of people that actually all of us are in marketing. So a lot of my work is focused on how do you apply AI to your sales, your marketing, and your CX. The definition of marketing is satisfying customer needs profitably. So all of us are in the business of marketing, whether we're in selling, whether we're in HR, whether we're in GBS, whatever we're in. So all of us have got to consider, how does that actually work? And in highly regulated sectors, and I've done a lot of work in financial services and a lot of work in healthcare, trust is the key to that operating model. So we've got to find ways of building the foundations that enable the team to scale responsibly across the organization. So let me think of a bank. If previously, when I wrote book one back in 2019, banks like NatWest were saying, we used to treat you as one big homogenous mass. So I've told you my age, I'm nearly 60, 59. They would have said female, 45 to 60. If I now give consent to use my data, they can give me a much more personalized service. And as a bank, as an insurance company, they can flex the service, shape it to my needs compared to the needs of my two daughters who've got a mortgage together, and so on. So the big data insights that come from the augmented intelligence enable us to paradoxically be very personalized. So I've got a whole chapter in my new book, and it's 100% new content. It was meant to only be 20%, but a whole chapter on the paradox of personalization. So whether you are in our sector that we're talking about today, whether you are in financial services, whatever you're in, you now have that big data. Let's look at a couple of other industry sectors with that theme of personalization in mind.
I had a snowball fight on the Las Vegas Strip because this fitting room simulates Arctic conditions. This is the snow room with daily snowstorms and temperatures reaching -10 degrees. It's the perfect place to try on and test out Canada Goose jackets inside the Wynn Las Vegas Plaza shops.
So personalization, yeah, we will talk about the high streets changing, all of the death of the high street. People want a great experience, but they also want to go in and try something and know that if I'm going skiing, I can try that jacket on, and now I can go in and see if it's working in Arctic conditions. Let's look at another quick example. Two quick videos coming up. Again, when you're watching this next video, think what I said about marketing. Think about the product, the price, the place. So this is about engagement. It's about tools like Midjourney that are allowing them to do great graphics and great communication with their different customers. So let's have a quick look at, we've heard about Kraft Heinz before in the previous presentation. Let's have a quick look.
All right, don't be surprised your friends are talking about websites that use artificial intelligence to generate images.
You simply type in a text prompt and it'll create images for you in around a minute.
try.
Oh, it's painting.
Wow, way better than I thought.
Nice.
AI ketchup campaign. Now, last year,
Results pretty well prove that AI image sourcing associates the word ketchup with Heinz.
It plays an iconic role in pop culture today as well.
So how do we increase that revenue? How do we increase that revenue? How do we engage our customers better? How do we shape the bottle, the labeling, and so on? All of this is really, really important. It's back to that message of personalization. A similar message, a much shorter video coming up here. This is in the airline industry. So all of us are thinking, again, how do we learn from what other sectors are doing with this incredible big data? So let's have a look at Delta Airlines.
Welcome to the future here at the Detroit Airport. You scan your boarding pass, look up at a giant screen, and you see only your flight information, even how many minutes it'll take you to walk to your gate. But only you can see it. It doesn't matter if you're standing right next to one other person or 100. Each person only sees their own information. Mind's blown.
It's otherworldly.
And I can't see a thing.
That is insane.
Can you read that for Mommy at the top? What does it say?
Hello, George.
What?
No way, that's so cool. I can't see anything.
Like, I literally don't. How is that possible?
It's possible.
I'm stopping it there because you don't need to know how it's possible. I said at the beginning, you don't need to have a degree in data science. You don't need to understand how the chips in your smartphone work. We don't care about that, okay? We care about what it can do for us. What are those big data insights that mean we can retain our staff? We understand their needs. We understand our customers, our clients. We know how to keep evolving and shaping and so on, okay? So just a few quick examples there. What I've got coming up for you is a really busy slide, okay? And you're very welcome to scan the QR code. A lot of companies are gamifying this with their teams. But what I want you to think about, again, how do we scale adoption? We heard in one of the earlier presentations earlier about mindset. What I've got for you here is a chart where you can give yourself a score of 0 to 5 points across 10 boxes. Therefore, you can score a maximum of 50 points. Many people score below 20 and are still what I call quite traditional in their approach to adoption of AI. I'd say the biggest percentage fall into the middle category, still transitioning. Maybe some of you, based on that poll earlier, are actually transforming, okay? Think about not just mindset for AI. What about tomorrow, next year's innovation? Something new is going to come along. It might be, hopefully not, but could be another pandemic, could be another major business disruption. We've got it with war, geopolitics, and so on. But whatever the business disruption is, this is how I approach it. Number one, do you have the right mindset for change, for AI, for everything else? 2, do you have the buy-in from the board, from the management team, however big, however small you are? 3 and 4 are probably the most important. So don't just open up your shopping bag and buy some AI like those brands were being told to do back in 2019. Do a business case. What are 3 areas where you could get incredible revenue increases? What are 3 problem areas that maybe AI can help you solve with new workflows and so on? And then number 4, go away and do some small proofs of concept. Okay? Number 5, we've got to collaborate. We've got to collaborate with all different departments in the organization. 6, we need talent. We need to upskill, not just the board, but all different departments. HR need to upskill themselves so that they can use AI-specific tools for great HR and L&D, but they also need to be the team that helps upskill the wider organization. And the same with every different job function in the organization. Everyday productivity, but also some specifics that help you alter the type of services that you offer internally and externally as well. Of course, it impacts your culture, number 7. Yeah, I'm now a one-man band. I've been a director of a company that listed on the London Stock Exchange. I've had 10 staff for a few years. Now I have none, it's just me. But I still make time to do corporate social responsibility, and I run my own pro bono school Leaders of Tomorrow in Tech AI program. So AI should not change your culture, and what I mean by that is it's not going to completely alter your values as an organization. Think Simon Sinek. Why do you do what you do? What are you in business for? You know, not what you do, not how you do it, but why are you in business? That's really important. 8 and 9, really important. So keep innovating. I said at the very beginning about that intellectual curiosity, which we heard from a few of the teams in the earlier presentations. Being agile, baking agility into the mindset is really important. Not just for continuous innovation, which means obsolescence, but to be constantly having a watching brief on what's happening there in the market. 9 and 10, of course. And I'd say with number 9, don't sit back passively waiting for the regulations and changes to come to your job function, to your sector and so on. Play a role in shaping what that looks like. Have a strategic roadmap, number 10. And maybe this turns into a 6-month action plan. Okay, so I've pulled out a few bits there. Have a watching brief on what your competitors are doing. Have a watching brief and do some due diligence on some of the tools on the market. Think about doing some proofs of concept. A changed behavior might be something as simple as sitting down for, I don't know, an hour on a Friday and sharing amongst your team some incredible prompts that you've all really found useful with Claude or Copilot or, you know, any of the tools that you actually use. So it's not about having it on the 1-year, 5-year business plan for the future, but actually, like I say, baking it into your everyday. And it might sound really obvious, but I was brought in quite a bit last year to some of the biggest companies in the world because, and I won't name them for obvious reasons, their board, their senior management weren't accepting that they were having to use AI every day. And they were reluctant and they were nervous and they didn't really know where to start. And these are companies that maybe have products and services on the market that we all use every day. Okay, so maybe that translates into up to month 1. Decide, you know, make some focus, think about 3 value plays perhaps. Then build the execution engine. Maybe by month 3, modernize the operating model. Think about locking governance into that. Maybe think then about the workforce. How do we redesign roles? How do we build that AI literacy? How do we, by month 6, actually scale with some really good proof points? Yeah? Maybe we're doing that where we've got the green light. Maybe we're doing that, you know, again, with ethics in mind. Now, there's bound to be barriers to this. We've heard it from some of the earlier speakers. There's resistance to change. It isn't age-related, interestingly. You don't have to be under a certain age to feel that this is, you know, right for you. This is about mindset. This is about knowledge. It's about, you know, the kind of, maybe the way you've been mandated to do this. We heard from some of the earlier presentations there about making sure this is baked into your KPIs, or else it's going to sit up there as a nice to do. For some of you, some of your teams, it might be clean data, it might be the skills gap, it might be cybersecurity issues, but we've got to be able, as teams, to be able to sit down and address what that looks like. What I've been helping a lot of companies do, and there are initiatives like this already out there where they're doing it directly, people are forming an AI task force. They don't need to be the techies, but of course, someone from the tech team's got to be involved in this. It might be a nominated representative from all different job functions in the organization, coming together. Maybe after their first 6 meetings, the output of that session is something like this. And it has, by its very nature, Number 7, for example, we've got to keep testing and refining. A piece of work like this, by its very nature, has got to be very, very agile. But we want a handbook. We need to be looking within the organization at, again, those pilots, those different workflows, those different ways that we can use AI across our organization. It's really, really important. So again, coming together and making sure that we understand this is impacting all of us. Okay, there isn't a sector, there isn't a job function that isn't touched by this. But it shouldn't be scary. We can be in control, and we need to be using it in a much, much more strategic way. So I think for me, it is above all, a mindset for this year and beyond, a new paradigm, a new way of working. Okay, but I've been, let's use me as an example. Marketing, go-to-market strategies for 35 years. What keeps changing, and the reason I stay ahead, is because I have that intellectual curiosity. I keep evolving. I keep using and try to be ahead of when everybody else is using them, new tools, new platforms, okay? That's what's changed in the 35 years. What stayed the same, or what my kind of key USP over the years has been delivering, doing a great job for people, being strategic, trying to find that unique selling proposition. Okay, so we're not talking about, we are talking about new paths, new platforms, new waves of working, but fundamentally we are still very much in demand. And what I guess the key skills for us, and this comes out of the World Economic Forum looking ahead to 2030, our intellectual curiosity, our strategic thinking, our empathy, our ability to add value. So final sort of example really is the internet has not been a level playing field for 30 years. ChatGPT and all of the tools don't give you a level playing field. Just because you've all got access to them doesn't mean you're all benefiting from them in the same way. Okay, probably a lot of you, maybe some of you don't know what a Boolean search is, where in Google you could put something like AI and healthcare, capital A-N-D. That little Boolean search there means I can filter. When I know about things like that, and I know how to prompt, and I know how to get the best out of my tools, the same with AI, okay, that's why it's so important to share that best practice across your organization. So, interesting at the moment, on LinkedIn, we've gone from all of us thinking, oh, we can use AI to get a competitive advantage. Actually, it's backfiring because everyone's using LinkedIn's AI engine and everyone's sending out the same boring connection requests. And then people are resisting it because people are taking it as a kind of, right, I'll just fire that out. I'll take that blog that ChatGPT's written or that post for LinkedIn and regurgitating the same material. So we could end up being homogenous again, yeah, in an attempt to actually differentiate ourselves. So what we have to do is layer onto that our own creativity, critical thinking, anecdotes, house style, and so on. Okay? So we can't let the AI just be used as 100% draft. Okay? Really, really important to do that. So back to the paradigm, and this is really last two slides. We need to be able in our organizations to promote that collaboration, that human and machine capability across every function in the organization. So I think, it's not about, I think artificial intelligence is such a difficult term. Augmented intelligence, amplified, okay? So I don't think that the future is an artificial one, okay? Even despite, I know there's an awful lot of stuff on Facebook and so on that is, just so mechanical and so fake and so on, but we are still in control, and if we operate properly, we can amplify what we do in the services that we deliver. So finally, on that right-hand side there, that team, your team leading with curiosity, with ethics, and with boldness, I think is going to be the team that differentiates. So I've got 7 seconds left. So thank you all very, very much for listening. I didn't want to hold you from the cocktails, but thank you for listening. I hope that's been useful. And I'm here, to answer any questions over the break, over the cocktail hour as well. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you.